You picked a robot, didn't you? It's alright. There's a whole universe and I've yet to meet a dependable human engineer. Just promise me you won't start dating the ship. It gets really awkward fast for everyone involved. Welcome to the engineer tutorial, where we'll be learning how to keep the engine cool while recharging programs during combat, the basic details of system maintenance, how to work with the captain to upgrade the ship, keep your team healed during away missions, and about the basic systems tab. In the tab menu, under talents you will find a list. Any talents that are orange, you're going to want to prioritize. These are your unique engineer talents. Keep in mind that your class's talents are all extremely important for surviving in space combat. The scientist has a lot of good talents to research for you, so it's not usually necessary to spend your points on physical talents like armor, carry capacity, or pistol damage. Ultimately, how you spend your talents is up to you. If you're finding that you don't have anything good to buy, there's no harm in saving some points and asking your scientist to research a talent for you if they can. During space combat, your primary concern should be reactor heat. Preparation for the fight is key, which I will cover more in the next part, but for now get to your reactor station immediately and monitor that reactor heat. Optimally, you will only want to use coolant when it's absolutely necessary, usually when the reactor heat is around 90 to 95%. If the reactor overheats, it will shut down until it reaches a safe temperature, making all systems inoperable periodically. If you find the reactor is heating up an unmanageable amount and you're burning through a lot of coolant or triggering the safety shutoff a lot, then you will need to ask the captain if you can upgrade the reactor at the next trading post when you're out of combat. On the fusion reactor screen located on the bridge and in the reactor room, you'll see 5 bars. The total usage should usually be set to full for maximum output during battle. The power in engineering primarily corresponds to ship thrusters, science to the sensors, support processors, and shield recharge rates. Shields need their own extra bar due to their massive draw on power just to keep them up during combat, and the weapons corresponds to the turrets. Over-upgraded parts will have a large draw on power, and reducing power to these systems using the screen without knowing what you're doing is highly unrecommended, unless in absolute emergencies like turning down weapons to give full power to engineering for warp. Turning off auxiliary systems will provide the reactor with more power, slowing the rate at which you heat up. Some of these are able to be turned off immediately at the beginning of the fight, and others during emergency situations during long battles. Talk to your captain outside of battle to come to an agreement on which can be turned off at the beginning of combat and which can be turned off in emergency situations. Lastly, when the scientist asks for a manual program charge, you will have to load a fuel canister and flip the switch as fast as possible. Sometimes you will be asked for multiple charges at a time, so stay vigilant for that request when it happens. To restart the ship in the case of a full system shutdown, flip the main power switch, then press the boot OS button, flip the system interface switch, and ask the scientist to unlock the system interface from their computer screen. While you do that, you should be pressing the prime warp core button, and finally flipping the shield generator back on. If everything is done correctly, then you've successfully downgraded from a total disaster to a mere major one. In the even more extreme case of a core meltdown, which will only occur if the core safety is off, the core eject switch must be flicked or you will all die. Afterwards, if you're somehow still alive, activate the ship's distress beacon and hope for the best. My last piece of advice is that you're usually the first person attacked by intruders, so turn off the intruder alarm at literally your own risk. You should now know how to keep the engine maintained during battle, and manually recharge programs for the scientist. Congratulations! Outside of combat is when you prepare for everything you need to do in emergencies during combat. Take a look around your ship at the various system panels scattered around: weapons, science, engineering, and life support. You'll notice each has subsystems which you can micromanage, except for life support, and knowing which subsystems are safe to reduce power to during emergencies or in preparation for a long battle can mean the difference between running out of coolant near the end of a voyage and still having a bit left over. Keep track of the reactor output and manage power usage of the ship parts found on the upgrade screen or ship tab menu, specifically monitoring the power usage of the thrusters, shield generator, and weapon systems, which are going to be the most taxing during combat. While you're never going to have a reactor that can meet all your power needs at once, by knowing how to manage your power needs amongst the system panels, roughly what amount of power usage you can afford to take on when replacing or upgrading depending on your reactor output, and when to upgrade your reactor, you can mitigate a lot of the heat buildup during combat. It's also up to you to help the weapon specialist process scrap after the pilot and scientist collect it. Simply hold the processing button you're prompted with on screen until the white bar lines up with the green line and release. If you did it correctly, you'll have processed the scrap. If not, you'll get 1 strike out of 3 and will have to try again. 3 strikes and you can no longer attempt to process scrap until you jump to another sector, at which point you'll gain another 3 chances. While you're at a trading post, you should turn off the ship's shields if the hull is in need of repairs. The pilot should already be pulling into the repair station. It also falls to you to access the part upgrade screen located on the ship and make all the system upgrades that you and the captain have agreed upon using the scrap that has been processed. Lastly, but certainly not least, it is your job to activate the jump drive charge upon the captain's request, inside or outside of combat. While it's charging, you can confirm your destination using the map or by asking the captain. Once you're all charged and the screen says you're aligned to the correct sector, you're all set to press the button again and blast off into the great unknown once more. Keep in mind that charging the jump drive heats up the reactor. If you need to pause the procedure for any reason, you can simply press the button while it's still charging. You should now know the basic details of system maintenance and upgrade management. Congratulations! On an away mission, you're not going to be as much help in combat because your special engineer talents will take up the bulk of your point allocation. Therefore, it's recommended you take on the role of the team medic instead of the scientist. Make sure the weapons specialist has equipped you with a healing ray or other gun that heals along with spare ammo for that gun. And keep your teammates at full health at all times. Healing grenade launchers are especially good for this, although they have low ammunition count and should only be used in emergencies. Stick close to the weapons specialist for the most part, as they will be taking the brunt of the damage on away missions. As a special note, robots can be healed using the same means you use to heal humans and Sylvassi, further suggesting that they may indeed just be a little person in a suit. You should now know how to heal or repair the crew during missions. Congratulations! In the tab menu, under the Ship tab, you'll see a category marked Miscellaneous and one marked Basics. Keep an eye on the Miscellaneous tab after your crew acquires scrap. If they pick up anything that goes in the Basics tab that is better than what you currently have, kindly inform your captain when they're not busy that there's a possible upgrade to the ship in cargo. At trading posts, take a good look at the reactors, shield generators, jump modules, and processors they have available, and make recommendations to your captain if there are any upgrades. If you find that your power is lacking, ask the captain if you can upgrade the reactor when you get to a trading post. You will always need to have an active discussion with the captain about how much scrap you have, how much you need, what currently needs upgrading, and what can simply be replaced when you get to a trading post. Do not make any unapproved upgrades. The captain has the final say on what the scrap is used for. It will take time to become acquainted with the various systems in the ship menu, understand what to upgrade, and when they're necessary by communicating with the rest of the crew about their systems. Knowing your systems is the difference between an expert engineer and a master engineer, and you should now have a basic understanding of the Basic Systems tab. Congratulations! The engineer is in charge of managing coolant to ensure the reactor doesn't overheat, manual program recharges, and keeping track of scrap for upgrades. Gamble with everyone's lives for the sake of saving coolant. Talk about scrap even when you're in the crew quarters. And always, always play as a robot. Thank you for attending this seminar on the Engineer Class Basics, and go forth with confidence into that final frontier. Warp drive, engage!